What is going on, and welcome back to another episode of iCoach Nutrition Radio. Today, we're going to be answering a question that I got. The question was, what is the source of fiber that makes you poop? As well as, is all fiber created equal? So, not only am I going to answer this specific question, but I'm actually going to do a deep dive into fiber, right? We're going to talk all about fiber. All right, so with fiber, there are two types of fiber: soluble fiber, right? And then insoluble fibers. So the soluble fibers are viscous and fermentable and can lower our blood cholesterol, okay? And then insoluble fibers help to bulk up stool volume and improve motility. So the question, what type of fiber or what is the source of fiber that that helps you to poop or makes you poop? That would be the insoluble fibers there. And then the second question is, all fiber created equal? So the answer to that would be no, right? Because you'll see a lot of fiber supplements, right? And fiber supplements are, well, they're just that, right? They are a supplement, right? And not to say that they are bad or that they're not useful or whatever, but getting fiber from actual nutrient-dense whole foods, that is going to be a much better option in comparison to just taking a fiber supplement. So that kind of answers those two questions. Now, diving a lot deeper here into fiber, let's get into it. So getting enough fiber by building your diet around vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. This is what we want to focus on in terms of fiber, right? And these are important, right? Because it helps us to improve our overall health, and it helps us to prevent getting disease. So what is fiber, right? Dietary fiber is a non-digestible polysaccharide, which just simply means it's a complex form of a carbohydrate, right? So poly means many, saccharide means sugar, all right? So these polysaccharides give plants their structures, right? So think about like plant cell walls, right? And then, like I said, there's two types of fibers: soluble fibers, insoluble fibers. I already went over the breakdown of both of those. But they're basically broken down based off, or into these two categories based off their structure and then what they can do for our bodies. Okay, and our bodies need both types of fiber. All right. So with these general groups, or within these general groups, there are many types of dietary fiber. All right. So I'm going to kind of go through the breakdown of the fiber type and then where they're found. So there's something called beta glucans, beta glucans, however you want to pronounce it. They're found in baker's yeast. They're found in some mushrooms. They're found in some grains. They're also found in seaweed. From there, there's cellulose or hemicellulose. These are found in plant cell walls, especially plants with a rigid structure, like trees. Then you got chitin. Okay, this is found in fungi, also exoskeletons, right, like crab shells. You got I always forget how to pronounce this. It's chitosan or chitosan. These are produced as a chitin derivative. You've got fructans, which are in many vegetables and grains, such as chicory, which is like a Jerusalem artichoke. There's chicory, there's Jerusalem artichoke, there's barley, and then there's like onions, leeks, garlic, etc. Right. From there, there's gums. So these are found in seaweeds, barley bran, tree sap, seeds. There's lignans, which can be found in plant cell walls, especially xylem, which is like a nutrient transporting cell. There's non-digestible dextrins, which are found in plant starches. There's non-digestible oligosaccharides, which are like the prebiotic fibers, like inulin, fructo and galacto oligosaccharides. For inulin and fructo oligosaccharides, you can see fructans. And then for the galacto oligosaccharides, these are derived from lactose in milk. The next one will be pectin. Pectin is found in fruits such as apples, apricots, guava, citrus. The citrus peels are a very high source of pectin, 30% of the weight. And then last two here, there's polydextrose, which is synthesized from dextrose combined with a citric acid and sorbitol, used as a starch replacer in commercial food products. And then last but not least, resistant starches, which are found in seeds, legumes, whole grains, potatoes, corn, green bananas, right? Especially these foods are cooked and then cooled. And so as you can guess, right, from kind of this list, right, grains, vegetables, legumes, fruits, and nuts account for 85% of the fiber in the U.S. food supply. The same plant foods provide a lot of other nutrients there as well. Right? However, since we live in a world of refined and fortified foods, there are now functional dietary fibers that are essentially isolated, right, non-digestible carbohydrates that fortify foods not usually containing fiber, stuff like fibered up Splenda and Apple Jacks. This allows many unhealthy products to claim that they are healthy. So don't get mistaken by that. That's why even like going back to, the question there on are all fibers created equal, whether we're thinking about the, fiber pills that are like supplements, or I mean, really, honestly, the easiest way to think about this is like, if it's fiber that's found in nature, that's what we should be consuming. If it's fiber that's not found in nature, right? Like Splenda packet that advertises or markets that there's 12 grams of fiber in it, that's not to say that's bad or you should avoid it. It's just saying that this should not be considered a go-to source of fiber. All right. Okay, so why is fiber important, right? So in 1972, scientists proposed a dietary fiber hypothesis, which suggested that common GI diseases like colon cancer, diverticulosis, appendicitis, these were all due in part to the lack of dietary fiber. And it's not hard to see why, right? Because Americans consume about 15 grams of fiber per day, okay, on average. 17.8 grams for males, 13.6 grams for females, right? And, ultimately, like, that is low, right? So if we think about having low fiber intake and how that affects our GI, our gastrointestinal tract, our digestive system, our gut microbiome, our gut flora, right? You can see why there are so many digestive issues here in the US today. Also, refined sugars, oils, dairy products, and alcohol contain no fiber and comprise 48% of the energy in the average US diet. And then, when you think about dietary fiber consumption, 73% of individuals with a fiber intake below 20 grams per day think the amount of fiber they ingest is about right? But the Institute of Medicine recommends 19 to 38 grams of fiber per day. And this just kind of varies based on your age and your gender. Okay. All right. And then last piece, white flour and white potatoes provide the most fiber to the American diet. This isn't because these foods contain a lot of fiber, it's because we eat lots of these foods, right? And so legumes only provide about 6% of the fiber in the US diet. So, we really should work on switching those, right? Essentially what that statement is saying is that the people eating a standard Western diet aren't getting anywhere near the fiber that they should. And when you think about, why does this matter? Well, a low fiber diet is associated with many health problems, including cardiovascular disease, GI disorders, cancers, poor bowel function, diabetes, excess body fat, high blood pressure. And so it's just, there are so many things that are linked to it. And if you look, there's actually a study that was done with over 500,000 people in 10 European countries that showed that people who ate more than 30 grams of fiber per day had approximately half the risk of colon cancer as those who ate 12 to 15 grams of fiber per day. So if you've got a history of colon cancer, you really should be paying attention to your fiber intake. Okay. How do you know how much fiber you're consuming in a day? Use an app like MyFitnessPal, track your food for 7 days, see how many grams of fiber you're averaging on a daily basis there. Simple as that. Okay, so let's go into how fiber affects these different areas, right? So fiber and cardiovascular disease. Okay, so there's a study where researchers followed more than 16,000 middle-aged men from around the world for 25 years. The higher the consumption of beans, the lower the risk of death from heart disease, up to an 82% reduction in risk, right? Dietary fiber from whole grains seems to also have a strong protective effect against cardiovascular diseases. Okay. Now moving into fiber and blood lipids. So there was a randomized controlled trial which compared to baseline values. Vegetarian diets with additional fiber, soy, and nuts were associated with a 20% decrease in total cholesterol and a 35% decrease in LDL cholesterol. Okay. Now, as we move into fiber and its relation with GI function, right? Gastrointestinal tract. Okay. Fiber can stimulate bacterial fermentation, right? Basically, prebiotic fiber is fuel for colon cells, right? And in the large intestine or pass through the GI tract unfermented. So since GI health is synonymous with immune function, fiber seems to play an important role in immunity. Okay. And so without adequate stool bulk, the colon will panic and respond with excessive contractions. This leads to the creation of excuse me, I always pronounce this one wrong too, diverticula, something, I think that's how you say it, which essentially they're herniations of the mucosal layer through weak colon muscles, right? Essentially little inflamed intestinal pouches. And so consuming sufficient fiber can prevent this. Okay, diabetes, fiber and diabetes. Consuming more fiber, especially from legumes, seems to help prevent type 2 diabetes. This is likely due to the moderation of blood sugar and insulin release, right? And, you know, not to mention fiber can help control body fat there as well. And so that's what we'll lead into here next, fiber and body fat. So fiber thinks body fat is a joke. Easiest way to put it there, I guess, because fiber increases dietary bulk, right, which decreases energy density and reduces energy intake. Okay, so this is helpful for the 75% of Americans who are over fat, right? On the other hand, because fiber increases satiety, eating lots of fiber isn't helpful for those trying to maintain or increase body weight either, right? And so more fiber means more fecal energy losses since GI transit time speeds up. Rapid GI transit leads to less time for digestion and absorption of nutrients. This can be a problem if mineral intake is lacking, right? So up to 32 grams of fiber each day doesn't seem to diminish mineral balance in adults. Same thing is noticed with up to 25 grams in kids. But resistant starches aren't degraded in the small intestine, so they act as a fiber source in the large intestine. Legumes are the big boys of resistant starch. And nearly 35% of legume starch escapes digestion because it's resistant. American youth and adults are estimated to consume approximately 3 to 8 grams of resistant starch per day. All right, so what should, I just went over a lot of like very scientific type stuff, right? So what should you actually know, right? Let's take the information and put it into application, right? So what do you need to know? You need to know that you need to eat more plants. Right, I say this all the time. The more vegetables and fruits that you eat in your diet, the healthier you'll be, the better you'll feel, the better you'll look, the better you'll perform. Right? And why is this? Because plant foods contain fiber, right? And the best sources are legumes, whole grains, vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. Plant-based diets tend to be higher in fiber, with vegan diets being the highest, assuming that they're actually being done right, right? People eating these types of diets tend to have lower rates of cardiovascular disease, cancer, lower blood fat, lower blood pressure, and lower body weight. This could be in part due to a higher fiber intake or because they're biking all of the city to protest. So yeah, take that for what it is there. I have no problem with vegans, vegetarians, plant-based eaters whatsoever. My big thing is just like, if you're going to choose that for whatever reason, right? I'm not here to judge, right? I just want to make sure that you're actually eating more vegetables and fruits in your diet as a byproduct of that decision, not eating Flamin' Hot Cheetos because it says that they're vegan, right? So make sure you do it in an adult way if you're going to make that decision. All right, so with kids need fiber too, right? So inadequate fiber during youth can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes. So here's kind of the fiber goals for kids. All children 1 to 3 years old should be getting 19 grams per day. Children 4 to 8 years old, 25 grams per day. Boys 9 to 13, 31 grams a day. Girls 9 to 13, 26 grams per day. So once you get outside of 13, that age of 13, that's when they go ahead and go into the adult categories there. All right, so the adequate intake, or AI, of fiber for children and adolescents is based on the data cited for adults, which showed that 14 grams per 1,000 calories reduced the risk of heart disease. The 2005 U.S. dietary guidelines recommended a fiber intake of 14 grams per 1,000 calories as well. However, too much fiber in kids can reduce overall food intake due to its satiation effect, increasing fecal energy loss and decreasing mineral absorption. So in children consuming a standard Western diet, this is rarely a problem, all right, but just something to mention. And then also grain and legume intolerance, most commonly to wheat, corn, soy, and peanuts, is common in children. So parents should look for other sources such as vegetables, fruits, seeds, nuts, or other seeds or nuts, other beans and legumes if necessary. Okay. All right. Now there are some downsides of fiber as well, right? So lots of fiber can mean less absorption of nutrients and calories. In the US specifically, this might actually be a positive thing. So there were reports, or it has been reported, right, that in the esophagus, from this deal here, it's called glucomannan, in the large intestine from other dense fibrous foods. So there's this thing called bezoars, right? Bezoars. And this is essentially a clump or wad of swallowed food or hair, right? I know, pretty weird, but these have been reported in the esophagus from glucomannan and the large intestine from other dense fibrous foods. So just something to consider there, not common by any means, but just something to bring up. Also, fermentation of fiber and other non-digestible carbohydrates by bacteria in the colon can produce hydrogen, methane, and carbon dioxide gases. This may lead to distension and expired gas. All right. Also, many people are intolerant of some forms of fiber, such as grains. There's evidence that the lectins in grains and beans/legumes can cause health problems for susceptible people because they affect the lining of the gut. Okay. However, there is also evidence that prebiotic fiber sources such as inulin and glucosamine can help with inflammatory bowel disorders. So if you have inflammatory bowel symptoms, right, make sure you review over your fiber sources that you're consuming. All right, so summary here of everything and the recommendations that go with it. So getting enough fiber is important for overall health and disease prevention, and it keeps your plumbing in good working order. If you build your diet around vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, you're probably getting enough fiber. And if you want a goal here, right, women should aim for at least 30 grams of fiber per day, and men should aim for at least 40 grams of fiber per day. You should get your fiber from whole foods. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. You should get your fiber from whole foods. Fiber supplements, okay, don't provide the micronutrients, the phytochemicals, and the water found in whole plant foods. So anyone who relies on a fiber supplement because they don't get enough from food has a crappy diet, excluding those, right, with very unique medical situations. And then also, when you eat enough fiber, you need to consume enough fluids to go along with that as well. Here's some extra kind of fun facts, some extra credit for you, if you will. So eating 1 cup of beans is about 16 grams of fiber. All right, the fiber of apples and pears can be recovered from the juicing process and used as a food ingredient. And those consuming adequate fiber, symptoms associated with hemorrhoids can substantially decrease. Inulin, oligosaccharides, resistant starch, and other fibers have actually been found to enhance mineral absorption, particularly calcium. There is a 1% increase in fecal energy loss for every 6 grams of dietary fiber added. So if anybody listening to this or watching this right now is, or has had a history with, or knows somebody, right, with, disordered eating, you need to make sure you're avoiding over consuming fiber supplements in the hopes of losing weight. You'll likely end up with what I mentioned earlier, bezoar and or a gut hemorrhage. And this might explain why plant-based eaters tend to be lean. And last but not least, 3 additional grams of dietary fiber from oats can decrease blood cholesterol by 2 All right. So that is all about fiber. Hopefully this not only answered the question that I got on fiber, but this also did a deep dive into all things fiber. As always, appreciate your support. Appreciate you sticking around, watching this, listening to this. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask about this podcast here on fiber, or just any questions in general. If it's a question I haven't answered before, I will do a podcast on it, just like I did today. Outside of that, hope y'all are having an amazing week. Finish that week there strong. Make sure that you are eating as many vegetables and fruits in your diet as you possibly can, so that you can feel your best, look your best, and perform your best. Until next time, thanks, iCoach. See y'all. Take care.